Thank you very much, Dean De La Cruz, for that introduction. Make me feel quite old. Chairman Montinola and the Board of Trustees, President Alba, school administrators, faculty, parents, ladies and gentlemen, and most especially graduates, I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to address you today. It is truly an honor to be here. The potential I feel in the room is exciting, and it is a privilege to play a small part in what is a great leap forward in your lives. Many years ago, I sat where you sit today, listening to many tell me how the world was there for the taking. They talked about things like potential and golden ages and opportunity. I felt whatever step I took, I would and could do no wrong. Nobody ever spoke about failure. I stood up from where all of you are and said to myself, I'm going to go full steam ahead, succeed, be the best, and nothing is going to hold me back. Truthfully, this was not necessarily a lack of humility or overconfidence, but rather a firm belief that I was put on a path that meant success would be waiting for me around the corner. Failure, not an option. Growing up, I had a very good life. It was easy. I was isolated from the problems of the world. Maybe too much, to be honest. And frankly, I'm sure the vast majority of you have worked far harder than I ever had to get where you are today. So you all owe yourselves a big applause for that. After coming out of school many years ago, I thought it was going to be a big payday. Good salary, nice car, live on my own, and most importantly, a lot of vacation time. You should have seen the look on my face when I got my first employment offer 20 years ago. 10,000 pesos a month. Not exactly the route to nice cars, and certainly not a way to pay for a lot of vacation time, which didn't exist anyway. It was certainly a wake-up call, and a much-needed one at that. I was working through what I thought was a difficult and unfair situation. At this time, ICTSI was building a portfolio of port facilities at par with the world's best. We had terminals in Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and the Americas. All said, this was a company that was going places, and there seemed to be no ceiling. I was jealous to be working on the ground floor and not being involved in what I thought was the exciting part of the business. If I look back on this today, the best thing that ever happened to me was to start my career this way. You don't realize it at the time and see things as a failure, especially when you feel you worked so hard in school. But in the end, there's nothing better than working and learning from the ground up. Do not ever treat having to learn a business from the very bottom as a failure. If you can, and you love the potential of the job, there is no better path towards success than one that you start on from the soul and depths of a business. While I was begrudgingly learning this hard lesson, ICTSI was going through a difficult stretch. First, the Asian financial crisis, which started in late 1997, hit us hard. Then labor and concession issues made things very difficult for us in Latin America, a continent with its own problems, particularly in Argentina, which was going through a terrible long-term recession. Then, to make matters worse, our market value took a hit during the dot-com equity crash of the early 2000s. Back then, we didn't know what Facebook was. Okay, so anyone that came up with the dot-com got very excited. Remember pets.com and all of these things. By this time, I could see how difficult it was for the senior executives in the company, but I had no idea of the real gravity of the situation. At this stage, it was decided the best move forward for me was to go off to graduate school. I was gone for a brief 2 years, but upon my return, the company had gone from having a major portfolio of ports around the world to practically none. The foreign businesses had to be sold to ensure ICTSI could meet its debt obligations. Not many people remember it today, but at that point, the global experiment that we had undertaken was considered by many to be a failure, and expansion beyond the Philippines looked to be a dream that had turned into a nightmare. While it may have looked that way to most, many of us in the organization took this as an opportunity. Armed with a newfound maturity, I personally was now able to get back into the company and accept what I was given. Fortunately, this was now an opportunity to participate in growing the company again. Contrary to the less aggressive approach that people were expecting, we started to build up our global portfolio again, starting with Brazil, followed by Poland, and finally, to this point of my story, winning a project in Madagascar. This was one of my first major lessons on why failures can and should be embraced. If you survive them and learn from them, sometimes the ultimate outcomes are better than the ones you could have ever imagined. Some people say experience is simply a fancy word used to describe failure, and I tend to agree with them. But it's also experience that most guarantees success. And without having the benefit of experiencing the difficulties that go with working and running businesses, you don't gain the foundation needed to truly excel at what you're doing. Under the pressures that come with the business environment you will soon be facing. I was soon to learn this lesson again the hard way. After winning the concession in Madagascar, I was offered the post to run our operations there. Understanding the business from the ground up was instrumental, as this was a project that required a bare-bones startup in an area of the world that had no exposure to best practices in most of its industries. Africa was a phenomenal place to catch this kind of break. There was what seemed to be unlimited potential everywhere. Unfortunately, it's never as easy as it seems, and failures are often waiting for you around every corner. It turned out to be a very difficult period for me. We were getting attacked from multiple fronts. The press latched on to a very unfortunate, why are you giving our infrastructure to Filipinos? These people didn't know where the Philippines was. Some of our customers were very hard on us, working very hard to sabotage our operations because they actually had their own interest in acquiring the business. And the government was not supportive of the change we were trying to deliver. To make matters worse, we actually really weren't delivering. And for every minor success or improvement, there was always a major failure that would take us back to square one. One night, while on a local business trip to the capital, I woke up at about 3 a.m., sweating and anxious. I never thought of myself capable of having a nervous breakdown, but that's probably exactly what this was. I ended up outside my room, pacing from one end of the hotel corridor to the other, seriously contemplating what I was going to do when I lost my job the next day. This was failure rearing its ugly head. After collecting my thoughts and getting myself together, I decided to see if there was anything I could do in the lobby to get my mind off this. I ended up spending a few hours reading whatever I could get my hands on, but that did nothing to ease my fears and stress. I then stumbled upon an article on Nelson Mandela. In this article, Mandela was quoted as having said, "I never lose, I either win or I learn." Nelson Mandela lived in one of the toughest environments in modern history. He endured some of the worst oppression of the 20th century while spending a significant part of his life on the run, under trial, or in jail. While I have read and learned many things about this great man, this quote was one that has stuck with me. "I never lose, I either win or I learn." After reading the story, I went back to the room. A little calmer, I managed to get a few hours sleep. After waking up, I promised myself I would learn from the experience and that I was not going to let any of these failures stop me from ultimately making the project a success. I spent many months, years there, enduring failures. Some very big ones in particular that came after that night in the hotel, but none fazed me anymore. I treated them like forks in the road that made the journey longer, but no less satisfying and no less successful. Ultimately, this has become one of the great projects in a portfolio of many projects. And many of us on that team are still together today, going through challenge after challenge, failure after failure, ultimately learning and winning. That was 10 years ago now, and I've since enjoyed 10 very positive years back home here in the Philippines. And in this time, I've had a chance to see firsthand how our country has progressed, for better and for worse. But enough about me. The question we need to ask now is, what does this mean for all of you? Our country is at a crossroads economically, environmentally, and socially. You're a part of the fabric of the country that needs to mesh together to move us forward, to weather failures, and to help us achieve our greatest potential. Within the next few years, the Philippine GDP is expected to be greater than Thailand's. Think about that. This will make us the second largest economy in Southeast Asia. We're already bigger than Malaysia and continue to have one of the highest growth rates in the world for major economies. But again, what does this mean to you, graduates? It means you, all you young, sharp, excited minds, have a monumental task ahead of you. You have the responsibility to make sure you choose the right path for you and our country, and use the privilege of this excellent education to approach the road to prosperity vigorously and inclusively, learning and winning. Going back to GDP, most of you know, after a grueling number of years working hard for your degrees, that what we often fail to mention is that this may not clearly illustrate how well we are really doing internally as a country and as a society. How we are improving relative to the growth of the population and how inclusive this growth is. It is one thing to compare a gross number to those of other countries. It's a whole other thing to ensure that these numbers are translating into innovation, ease of business, more quality jobs, better healthcare, better education, while at the same time ensuring we're not forgetting the impact of all of this on the environment. To me, inclusive does not mean some fancy statistic showing the wage divide tightening, as great as that would be. That's a complex issue and something very much out of our control, at least in the short term. What inclusive should mean at our level, at the grassroots level, is that we are improving everyone's position over time at a rate faster than our peers. It is how we ensure growth trickles down to every citizen in a sustained way, whether it be through innovation, creating jobs, building a healthier community, creating educational opportunities, or protecting the environment. If you are fortunate like me to be part of a company that builds things, remember that it's not just about building something to maximize profits, although obviously that's very, very important. Over the long term, we have proven that businesses only grow and succeed to their highest potential when we create a sustainable labor base, when what we build makes people's lives easier, and when what we build ensures that there are tangible and intangible benefits to whoever uses what we build. While there will be failures of this along the way, it's our task, your task, to ensure that you learn from these and keep the business moving in the right direction. Not just for you or for your company, but for the many others who are impacted by the business you're in on a daily basis. It may sound like an easy thing to say, a fancy tagline, but the reality is no matter what you do, as an entrepreneur or a professional, whatever you manage, when you run numbers, when you analyze, when you design, when you sell, there's an impact on more people than you think. Treat this as a responsibility and ensure that you learn from your mistakes, because there will be many. You will fail, but you will also bounce back from failure. And when you do, everyone that benefits from that business will be better for it. When you leave here, some of you will start where you want. Others may be challenged. Some will be luckier than others, and some will have the courage to go at it on their own. Whatever road you take, try and choose a path that leads you to a role you will enjoy and maybe even love. Find a way in each of these roles to make a difference, even in the smallest of ways. Be part of something that builds things, that creates jobs, something that innovates and hopefully makes people's lives better. Most importantly, and I can't say this enough, I keep saying it, remember to embrace the failures and turn them into lessons. These lessons make you stronger, and the stronger you are, the greater our country will be for you. In the end, it's how we stand up to failure that defines us. I will close, therefore, with something that reminded me recently of how important this lesson is. Something a little less boring than what I was just saying. I know many of you love sports and are probably big basketball fans coming from FEU. Ever since the mid-80s, when I was about 10, I remember the Golden State Warriors organization enduring failure after failure. Now, of course, the team is a world beater with outstanding leaders and players that have totally changed the game of basketball. What struck me after they won the NBA championship recently wasn't anything inspirational that was said by Steph Curry or Kevin Durant or any of the other Warriors. What struck me was what was said by LeBron James. After losing Game 3 and getting criticized for passing up a shot in the closing minute, LeBron responded to the critics by referencing a quote from 1910 by Theodore Roosevelt, which is now popularly known as the man in the arena. It goes like this: "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." Class of 2017, congratulations. Do not be afraid of failure. Meet it head on, win, learn, be better because of it. Thank you very much.